This is one of the best chords ever created in the history of music. It has everything you need to tell a great story. It has direction, it builds suspense, and unlike most chords, it's unique. It is unexpected. You can barely find this chord in most modern music, but you can find it in some of the most beautiful masterpieces ever written. The first time I encountered this chord was when I was playing Mozart. When I was learning this piece, my teacher encouraged me to identify the chords in the music score, and some of them I could identify, but when I got to this chord, my teacher asked me, "What is this?" I looked at my hand and at the keys I was pressing on the piano, and I said, "Well, this is obviously an F7. My teacher looked at me with a surprised face, his eyes very open. It almost looked like his eyeballs were going to pop out of his face. And he said, "An F7 has an E flat. This is a D sharp. The D sharp and the E flat are played exactly in the same black key on the piano." So I asked, "Isn't that the same?" Now, my teacher had this face of horror, and he looked at me as if I had insulted Mozart's sister, and he said, "No, this is not an F7, this is an augmented sixth chord." And he went on to tell me the whole history of the chord and how there is a German augmented sixth, an Italian augmented sixth, a French augmented sixth. I ignored most of what he said. I was already happy that I could identify some of the normal chords. Some months passed and I was now learning Beethoven, and one of his pieces goes like this. This time, as I was learning Beethoven, I was already much more comfortable with harmony, so I could identify myself the chords on the music score, and I could even understand their functional roles. So when I had another class with my teacher, I showed him how I had identified all the chords, and I even told a story where all those chords were characters and had a very specific function in the story they were telling. My teacher looked at me impressed, and then he said, "That is a beautiful story, but it's wrong, because this chord here is not an A flat 7. That's an augmented sixth chord." Now I was really upset. This time I had actually put a lot of effort into learning harmony, and this chord was chasing me. There was nothing I could do about it. I still didn't understand how it worked, what was its function. So several months passed, and now I was learning Chopin, and the introduction of Nocturne 20 goes like this. As usual, As I was learning this piece, I was taking note of the different chords in the score. But then I get to a chord that looks very weird. When I look at my hand, it seems to be playing an A7. But then, when I looked at the music score, it didn't really have a G. Instead, it had an F double sharp, like one sharp is not enough. F double sharp? Why do they do this in such a complicated way? F double sharp is the same thing as G. And then, for the first time in my life, I knew what I was looking at. I took a note, and in the next class, I started playing Chopin, and my teacher said, "Wait a moment, I want to see what you wrote there." He looked at my notes, and then he looked at the sky, and he said, "He learned." It took me 3 of the best masterpieces of all time to learn what the augmented sixth chord is. And the funny part is that this chord is extraordinarily simple. This chord is the moment before the big moment. What is the big moment of drama in music? It's chord 5, which creates all that drama. Chord 5 is the villain, the problem that must be solved. So the augmented sixth chord is a chord that leads very strongly to the dominant, to chord 5. Let's think of an example of a key of C major. In the key of C major, the dominant note is G. What are the 2 notes that lead very strongly towards G? One is the note that comes immediately before, F sharp. The other note is the one that comes immediately after, A flat. Any chord that has these 2 notes is an augmented sixth chord. That's it. It has 2 notes that lead very strongly towards G. Of course, you need a few more notes to make a chord. So the French came and they added a couple of notes in the middle and they called it the French augmented sixth. Then the Germans came and they added another note in the middle and they called it the German augmented sixth. And the Italian also came and added another note in the middle and called it the Italian augmented sixth. Personally, I'm thinking of adding some notes there myself and calling it the Portuguese augmented sixth. Why not? It doesn't matter. All it matters are those 2 adjacent notes that fall into G. All the rest is just decoration. And why is this chord so good, so powerful? Just like anything else in life, the most important in a story is not the big moment of drama, it's how we get there. It's the moment before the moment.